which had affected access to voting stations, especially due to flooding or impassable roads. In particular, voting stations located in tents were affected by strong winds and heavy rains in the Eastern Free State, parts of Gauteng, the coastal regions of KwaZulu-Natal, and parts of Limpopo. In most cases, the affected voting stations were reported operational by 11 today once tents had been repitched and access to voting station restored with the help of disaster management teams and security agencies. The second area of challenge was the impact of sporadic community protests, which affected the opening and operations of several voting stations across the country. Reports have been received of voting stations which were unable to open on time due to access to voting stations being prevented by protest action, including the barricaded roads. As at 11 this morning, approximately 140 voting stations around the country were reported not yet open due to this protest. To give that figure context, 140 voting stations represents about 0.6% of the total voting station network in the country. So less than 1% of voting stations could not open due to this community protest. Among the areas which were reported, where community protests were reported include in the Eastern Cape, the Amahlati municipality around the Stutterheim area, Mbizana and Tabankulu in the Pondoland, Free State, Bloemfontein and Maluti Apofung, Gauteng, it was Tshwane, Mooiplaas and Pienaarspruit, Katlehong, Ngala section, and Boksburg and Sebokeng on the Vaal, and West Rand, Manseville, and in the Johannesburg area, Loli and Ivory Park. The areas affected in KwaZulu-Natal are Ulundi, Umsunduzi, and Ndwedwe. In Limpopo, it's Elias Mutswaledi, Polokwane, and Ha Mamabolo. I think I've got to go home to sort out some things. There are family matters that require resolution, as well as Giyani. Mpumalanga, Gersibande, Sekunda, and Bush Bakrish. And in the northwest is areas around Rustenburg, and only one voting station affected in Dikgatlong in the Northern Cape, and one in the Western Cape around Gugulethu. In all affected areas, the situation is being monitored by the IEC officials who are working closely with state security agencies to ensure that we are able to open this voting station as soon as possible. And as soon as we do that, we need to guarantee safety of both eligible voters as well as our voting officials. While the Electoral Commission appreciates the right of South Africans to peacefully protest and raise issues of concern, it appeals to all communities to exercise this right in a way which does not deny the rights of other citizens to register and to vote. The Electoral Commission urges all South Africans to make use of this final registration weekend and for South Africans to register as well as to update their addresses for the upcoming national and provincial elections. Our contact center is experiencing high call volumes, which we are efficiently handling at the moment, and so far we've received 2,700 calls, 300 social media inquiries, and 200 electronic mail since 8 o'clock this morning. We wish to remind those voters already registered to make use of click, check, and confirm portal on our website to update addresses and to furnish them if none is on record. We thank you.
Thank you very much, CEO. I'm going to open the floor for questions, and then we can see any issues of clarity. Questions? Vincent?
I'm sure it was anticipated that there would be opportunistic protests, especially during this voter registration drive. Were there measures being made with the law enforcement agencies to just maintain law and order?
What's your?
Yes, there were extensive plans that were put in place between ourselves, some state departments which have a role in the electoral process, as well as the security agencies. Those plans included, amongst other things, static deployment in known flashpoints. And they are in control. We don't think that we have a major crisis at the moment. The situation is under control, and those voting stations will, in the course of today, open in all likelihood. In the event they are not able to open, they'll certainly be opened tomorrow. But the reality of the situation is that we do not also wish to militarize the electoral processes, because an electoral process is essentially a civilian exercise. It's about civilians deciding the political future of the country, and that's how the Commission wishes to have the matter handled. It is not the desire of the Commission to have a high level of security presence within voting stations, because essentially, as I say, an election is a civilian exercise.
Will the IEC be able to tell us, I'm sorry, it's Kenya Okanapa to inform, will you be able to tell us at this stage how many first-time voters are registered for the election?
No, not at the moment. We will have that data on Tuesday when we release the results of the registration weekend. At the moment, we can give you anecdotal accounts, and those anecdotal accounts are in the realm of speculation. But I think I'm not I'm not exaggerating when I say that the EXE campaign has animated our young people, and the majority of them, we hope, will heed the call to go to voting stations, because, as we say, people are shaping the type of country we will have for the future by voting this or the other way when election day comes.
Just on the issue of the 10 million unregistered eligible voters, based on the voting stations that you visited earlier today, what's your observation on the ground in terms of the youth who are actually coming to register and vote?
Yes, there seems to be a steady flow of young people that we are observing in the voting stations. I happened to visit this morning some few stations in Diepsloot, and what was pleasing is to see that young people actually were in the majority of those people who were showing up, and those were young people who were first-time voters, and some of them were saying, oh, this thing is so quick and so easy. No, I'm going to encourage my other friends to come through. So as the Commission, we say, EXE, it's time now to register so that you can participate come the next elections.
Yes, Katlaho from Eyewitness News. Just a reminder on people who do miss this weekend. You had mentioned that there are drives at universities. Will that continue? If I cannot make it at all this weekend, what happens to me?
Am I on?
Yeah.
Okay. After this weekend, yes, we wish to confirm that there is going to be a targeted registration where we're going to visit institutions of higher learning and to bring the opportunity for young voters to them so that they can vote. I think what is important though to clarify is that those opportunities, as far as we believe, are not as convenient as coming to your own voting stations. There are more voting stations across the country than there are institutions of higher learning, and therefore I would urge young people to use the opportunity to visit and familiarize themselves with their voting station. And then also just to remind the country that as soon as the President proclaims the date of elections, the voters' roll closes for this particular election. If you do register after proclamation, it means you are on the voters' roll, but not for this election that is coming. So I think that is very, very important. I know South Africans do like to do things at the very last minute. I would urge you to please go against the grain and use this opportunity to see your voting station, and let other opportunities come, but please use the weekend. Thank you.
South Africans who are living abroad, how are they giving the call to come register and vote, especially the first-time voters?
No, even there's a steady flow of registration. Since we activated the process in December until recently, we've seen close to 6,000 people register at our missions. London, of course, with the highest number is there, followed by Dubai in the United Arab Emirates. As you know, next weekend from the 1st until the 4th, we will be giving a special drive at missions abroad to ensure that the majority of our compatriots who live outside of the country are also given the possibility to shape our country by electing those who must lead us politically.
I just have a question. Sorry, Leila Marcus. You said that the protests were service delivery protests. Are you aware of any of the protests because where IEC officials were blockaded from coming into a community because the community said they don't want to vote, they don't want to be part of this process?
No, Leila, they don't want to be part of the process because the underlying demand is service delivery related. Yes, indeed, they've blockaded the road and say, you don't come, don't open. But the underlying demand is about one or another public service.
Thank you very much. I think we have covered all the questions. Once more, thank you very much. The chairperson was definitely in deep slot. He had a lot of, and thank you so much for the support from the media from early in the morning, most of you on the road, as we begin to look at day one of final voter registration weekend. Let's keep up the pace. We still have another day tomorrow to do the work. So let's keep on going. We'll definitely make ourselves available for interviews and any of the developments happening in our country. Thank you very much. Thanks lots.
Thank you.
Chair, can we do